the kingdom of killer animal movies has a real knack for honing in on our primal fears. And there is one animal in particular that's represented within this subgenre of film where the primal fear of is rather accurate. An animal that we as a species have been competing with ever since we started walking with erections. Oh, wait. That's way off. I meant walking erect. Sorry. An animal that we, as a species, have been prey and predator to. Predator to? No, not predator to. Predator. Oh, you know what I mean. Let me put it this way. An animal to whom which we have been both predator and prey and vice versa. And I'm talking about bears. And there are quite a few films that include a killer bear, at least to some degree, like The Great Outdoors, which is a comedy that just happens to have a killer bear in it. But perhaps it would be more accurate to talk about movies where the bear is the main antagonist and the focal point of the film, such as Night of the Grizzly, which was released in theaters April 20th, 1966. And you know, maybe it's not entirely accurate to call this a killer animal flick because, well, a bunch of other stuff happens. And this movie's title is a bit misleading because while there is a bear in it, it's more of a side note. And it is more of a Western frontiersy kind of movie more than it is a killer animal flick. And it was well received by both audiences and critics. It's been described as heartwarming, tense, and scary. I would agree with that. And if you're wondering how the hell could anything be both heartwarming and scary, well, somehow this movie manages to do that. Even though this movie has a lot more going on in it than just a killer bear, it should still be on your list of killer animal flicks. And it is one of the first movies in this subgenre of film, and it's worth a watch. But again, the title is a bit misleading, though I suppose Night of the Grizzly sounds better than Night of the Grizzly and other various frontier shenanigans. It's a bit wordy, isn't it? Well, how about its life on VHS? How did that work out for it? Well, it looks like, oh no, not Paramount Home Video. And for those of you out there wondering about my curiously disproportionate disdain for Paramount Home Video, well, just know that Paramount Home Video is a pain in the ass. It all comes down to how they date their tapes. They throw out the years like bingo numbers. There'll be a year printed on the sleeve, only to have a completely different year printed on the cassette. And sometimes the sleeve will have 2 different years on it, as well as having a completely different year on the cassette. Highly unnecessary, and all it does is make it harder for a VHS collector to find a specific distribution. So yeah, Paramount Home Video would first release Night of the Grizzly on VHS in 1985, and then I'm sure they re-released it again about 1 billion times throughout the 90s. I personally would love to give you a more believable number on that, but Paramount Home Video just makes things way too difficult, and it takes the starch right out of my pants. In fact, you could say that Paramount Home Video is simply unbearable. So anyways, Night of the Grizzly is a killer animal flick, but barely. But there are other films that are strictly killer animal oriented that focus on bears. The best example of this is Grizzly, which was released in theaters May 16th, 1976, which is about a killer grizzly bear. And by the way, the bear in this movie is portrayed by Teddy, a Kodiak bear. Even though he's supposed to be a grizzly bear, he's not. He's a Kodiak bear, which are 2 different kinds of bears, and well, I guess they just thought nobody would notice, and I guess nobody did. Now, Grizzly, as a film, has oftentimes been considered a B-movie. One of these second-run flicks you take a date to go see, not to watch the movie, but just to make out. Whether or not that's true, that's neither here nor there. Let's let the numbers do the talking. It was made on a meager budget of $750,000, but took in $39 million at the box office. So either everyone was ready for a movie about a killer bear, or a lot of people just wanted to make out. Well, whatever you were doing while watching this film, you had another chance to do it in 1989 when Media Home Entertainment released it on VHS. If you wanted this little beauty for your VHS collection, what's it gonna run you? Are the prices unbearable? Well, that depends on where you look. On eBay, they're relatively cheap. They range from $3 to $40. But over on Mercari, what is it? Mercari? Okay, whatever, this shopping site, which, by the way, I do not recommend looking for VHS on this site. Mercari is a haven for very high sellers, and I don't know, high being price or high because they're on drugs thinking this stuff goes for this much. But yeah, don't shop here. But let's check it out anyway for funsies. Oh look, you can get a copy for $40 with one of those damn SP stickers on it. Oh look, you can get a really shitty X-Rental copy for $18, and I mean, this is really shitty. Probably the worst X-Rental copy I've ever seen. Or you can get a slightly shitty normal version for $99, your choice. Don't shop for VHS on Mercari. So Grizzly was rather successful, and being rather successful, it would of course enjoy a sequel. And this is where it gets a little weird. Grizzly 2, The Revenge, was finished production in 1983, but wouldn't be officially released until 2020. Sure, there were bootleg versions floating around, but that's not really the same thing, is it? Can you imagine going through all the trouble to make a movie only to have its release halted for 37 years? There appears to be various reasons as to why it was halted for so long, and I can't really get any clarification on any of them, so I'm just gonna move on. This movie's pretty interesting, not just for that, but look at the cast. Charlie Sheen, Laura Dern, John Rhys Davies, George Clooney. Interesting story behind its release. Great cast, but unfortunately there was no VHS release, so we're gonna move on. The kingdom of killer animal movies is pretty immense, and within that immense kingdom, the realm of killer bear movies is pretty damn big too. Because we also have 1977's Claws. And this is basically a ripoff of Jaws, and the production company pretty much admitted that. It's basically Jaws on land, but instead of a shark, it's a bear. Now, it would be really cool if it was a bear shark or a shark bear, but we'll talk about that later. Even the movie's name rhymes. Claws, Jaws, you get the idea. Claws was released on VHS by Video Gems in 1980... I don't know. It's one of these tapes that doesn't have the date on it. Oh, sure, it has 1977 on it, but that's when the movie was made, not when the VHS was released. So given that the packaging design is that of the coveted big box, I'm guessing this is either a 1980 or 1982. Maybe an 84 or an 85, or really any time between 1980 and 1987. This could be any of those. And if you want this for your VHS collection today, good luck, because there is currently only one listing, and it's some pretty steep mid-tier pricing. Which I guess isn't bad considering that this is actually pretty rare and the big box is in pretty decent shape, which is rather hard to find. Yes, big boxes are very easily damaged and it's difficult to find one in halfway decent condition. Now, it's important to note here that there was a 1982 television movie called Claws, and it was supposed to be about a mutated lynx that terrorizes a farm. Not a bad concept, especially for a television movie, but there's only one problem. Nothing really happens in this movie and everybody hates it. Yeah, like a Tootsie Roll in a litter box, this was buried pretty quickly, and strangely enough, it did get a VHS release in 1985 by World Video Pictures. And there's currently only one listing for this, which technically makes it rare, but nobody wants it. I mean, look at that asking price. That is the price of someone who just wants this thing out of their house.
Watch the full episode here, as well as other classic Cat Nanos VHS pirate ship adventures. And please hit subscribe.